We'll have joining us today Vanessa Wegstein, our marketing manager here at SSDA, Chris Walker, the proprietor of the Selkirk Arms Hotel in Kirkcudbright, and Patrick O'Shaughnessy, the industry development manager at Visit Scotland. So if I can begin by introducing Vanessa Wegstein, our marketing manager, who'll be talking about marketing plans and opportunities. The countdown is now on to the summer of cycling.
Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many people joining us to hear about all things cycling in the south of Scotland this morning. So we already had two fantastic sessions talking about cycle tourism in the south of Scotland, but today we also want to focus a bit on our plans for the summer, considering that we've got quite a lot happening in the south of Scotland. You might have heard from press very recently already, the south of Scotland is the home of the bike, and we're certainly keen to push that very much this year with events such as the UCI Cycling World Championships coming to the Scottish borders and Dumfries and Galloway, and also with the launch of the brand new Kirkpatrick C2C south of Scotland's coast to coast. Most of you will already be familiar with our goal at SSDA. Our challenge and our goal is to make the south of Scotland the go-to place, a year-round destination that attracts a wide variety of people to visit our places, to engage with our culture, to stay in our towns and to explore our landscapes and history. But so far we've always been very much perceived as the go-through place. It's the roads that you take from the north of England to get to the Highlands, to maybe get to Edinburgh, get to Glasgow. And quite often people actually forget that actually the south of Scotland is a fantastic place to just stop, take it in for a few days and have absolutely fantastic experiences. Next slide, please. And that is, of course, why we created Scotland Starts Here, which is our face to the world. It's our marketing platform at scotlandstartshere.com. We are also Scotland Starts Here and Discover South Scotland on social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's also the platform on which we run all of our consumer-facing marketing campaigns and promotional activity. You might have seen in the past few weeks, we had some fantastic press coverage, both for the Kirkpatrick C2C and also for a variety of journalist visits to the south of Scotland. So all of this runs through Scotland Starts Here. Next slide, please. But at the moment, our big focus is on cycling. Now, on Scotland Starts Here, we already have quite a lot of information regarding cycling and quite a bit of cycling content. We have landing pages dedicated to road cycling, gravel biking, mountain biking, cycling services such as tour guiding services, cycling routes with a whole route map. But perhaps people aren't as familiar with that yet. And we want to make sure that this year, especially this summer, we really push that content and enable people visiting the south of Scotland to utilize all of the different forms of cycling, whether it's families coming with their young children who want to explore some of the surrounding towns, some of the surrounding landscapes, or whether it's people who are already really keen on things like mountain biking who want to discover some of our trail networks and really make the most of their adventurous spirit. We also promote Visit Scotland's Cyclists Welcome Scheme. We've got functionalities to tag your business as being cycle friendly. We have already created a variety of blog posts around cycling events, about cycling routes. And of course, we have our events section where we promote cycling events, including the Graloch, Raiders Gravel. Just recently, we had Muck and Mac over at Traquair. And we also organize a number of targeted press and PR visits. But I suppose my first question is, do the attendants today actually know about all of these different items? Because perhaps we could do a bit more utilizing them with your support and also for you as businesses to really highlight everything that you do to welcome cyclists. And that's why I'm now coming to some of our marketing plans and opportunities for the year, how we can promote businesses as being more cycle friendly and also the south of Scotland as a cycle friendly destination. First of all, I wanted to start off with something that has come out quite a bit in our previous two sessions as well, there is actually a difference between being a bike-friendly business and a bike-focused business. If you want to appear as bike-friendly, you might find that actually there's quite a few things that you're already offering as a business that you just need to tell people about a bit more, and you will find that cyclists will really appreciate that. So for example, even just pointing out that you have bike storage, whether that is simple bike racks outside a visitor attraction as an overnight accommodation, perhaps you have communal storage or safe storage. That could be something such as a garage that you can lock. Also in terms of food and drink, if you offer things such as packed lunches or takeaway options, those are all items that are really attractive to cyclists who are looking to stop somewhere on their route, on their day out and on their trip. Another item that actually a lot of cyclists really appreciate is outdoor seating. So lots of people will of course be out and about with their bikes in fair weather. They're looking to explore, make the most of the sunshine. So if you as a cafe or as a restaurant have some outdoor seating where cyclists can keep sight of their bikes, that is a really helpful item to point out. Also, in terms of guest information and support that you might be able to offer at your business are things like town maps, where you can very easily point out bike shops or services. You can add some information into room folders on local bike guides, bike hire services, or even mechanical services. But also most accommodation businesses will already be offering laundry and cleaning facilities. And a lot of cyclists, you're coming in from a long day of cycling around the south of Scotland. Perhaps the weather hasn't been the greatest. Shoes are wet, your clothes are wet, perhaps. If you're able to have an overnight service of just getting those items clean so you can wear them again the next day, you are a bike-friendly business, and that's something that you can point out. On the other more bike-focused side, we find that quite a few cyclists who are, really keen cyclists, really quite experienced, and also going on longer distance cycles. Quite often they prefer to be allowed to take their bike into their room with them, just as a safety issue. Nowadays, bikes can cost tens of thousands of pounds, so it's only natural that people really don't want to leave them out of their sight. And quite often cyclists would then also want to be assured that if there is a safe storage space, there is actually CCTV in place just to be sure that their bikes are well looked after. In terms of food and drink, a bike-focused business might specifically provide post-ride meals, snack selections that are easy to take away. That could be anything from having bananas to just grab and go, or even early breakfasts for people who are looking to get up bright and early for a long day of cycling. In terms of guest information, they might go the extra mile with actual trail maps of cycling routes around the accommodation, even planning services and in-house tour guides, and also offering transfer and recovery services. It does sometimes happen, you have a mechanical issue while you're out and about. So if your accommodation is able to give you a phone number and they're able to get you back, perhaps even with in-house mechanical services, going that extra mile to really attract those dedicated cycle tourists. So that's just a really quick overview. There is quite a few more opportunities and options. And you might find that a lot of these things you already offer. So like I said, whether you already have a garage that you could use as safe storage, promote as safe storage, or whether you already have food and drink options that people can easily take away, it's just about pointing those things out. This summer, we are launching the brand new Kirkpatrick C2C south of Scotland's coast to coast, which will be one of the latest and most exciting long distance cycling routes in the UK. It will also be among one of the longest cycling routes, stretching 250 miles from Stranraer on the west coast to Eyemouth on the east coast. Over the last weeks, we have already shared some more information about the route itself, some of the towns it stops in, and the route will actually also include quite a few route spurs or extensions that cyclists can include if they want to explore a bit more. They will be able to, for example, start in Proprietor as opposed to Stranraer for an extra day of cycling, stopping in Galashiels, stopping in Duns. And that actually means that there's a whole variety of businesses on the route or close to the route who will be able to position themselves as ideal stop-off points for cyclists planning days out on the route. What we're really keen to do with the Kirkpatrick C2C is to ensure that cyclists really make the most of all of the businesses in the south of Scotland. So there is the opportunity to tackle it as a 4-day or as an 8-day approach. However, we also want to point out information that people will be able to just do a long weekend on the route if they don't want to do the entirety of it. So to do that, we will be building new landing pages on Scotland.ca to suit all of these various target groups. We will also include on that a cycle-friendly business map with all of the businesses that are close or on the route. We will have a social media campaign in time for the launch in July, which will showcase stretches of the route, as well as a variety of blog posts and content showcasing some of the businesses, some of the potential approaches, and of course, some of the sites and landscapes that people will be able to take in. We are already working on targeted press and PR. So as I mentioned, there was a release just recently with some of the towns that the route passes through. However, we're also currently working with a number of journalists who are interested in being the first to cycle the route and meet with a lot of businesses on the way. So there is a pretty good chance that you will see quite a few people, even before July, cycling the route and giving it a first try next. However, we also have fantastic celebrations planned for the summer of cycling. We are the proud home of the bike, and we want to encourage visitors to explore on 2 wheels, even if they're not looking to do full 8 days, 250 miles cycling the entire width of the south of Scotland. We want to celebrate the UCI Cycling World Championships. And to do that, we're also in the process of creating a landing page around the UCI, giving a bit of information on the locations where the events are happening, but also about the fringe events and the local town and community celebrations that are being announced every week. So as part of that, we will also be running some social media activity showcasing cycling for all, making sure that people are aware that, you know, the south of Scotland isn't all about the really experienced and keen cyclists or the absolute pros that will be competing in the UCI, but it's actually for everybody, and we've got a whole variety of trails. We will be highlighting cycling events, new cycling itineraries, blog posts, and again, have a variety of targeted press and PR. So what are the next steps? We're very keen to make more options available to you businesses to show that you are cycle friendly. First of all, we will be providing new information page on the SSDA website for businesses to tap into, including the recordings from these webinars, as well as further information on how to show that you are bike friendly. We will also be providing new facilities on Scotland Starts Here so that you can tag yourselves as being a cycle friendly businesses, including options such as showing that you provide cycle racks, safe storage, and certain other items. We will also, as I mentioned, have new pages on Scotland Starts Here to increase the visibility of the cycling content we already have, and we are working on a database with a variety of cycle-friendly businesses that we can share with the trade and our contacts. However, it's really important for us to actually get your input as well. If we create new content on Scotland Starts Here and we create marketing activities, we want you to be involved. We would really welcome your input, we would really welcome your feedback and your help in testing those new features and the new web pages for Scotland Starts Here before we set them live for all of our audiences and potential visitors to the south of Scotland. So if you're interested, we will follow up this webinar with an email and a bit of a summary of how you can get involved. But if you're interested, I would really appreciate your input on what else you think we should do, and also giving feedback on the new content that we will be releasing in the next month to be ready for the summer of cycling and the Kirkpatrick C2C.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. That's great to have the insight of marketing activities and opportunities. I would remind everyone to please do pop your questions for Vanessa and the panel of speakers in the chat box as we progress, and we'll certainly be picking those up at the end. I'll now hand over to Chris Walker, the proprietor of the Selkirk Arms in the artist town of Kirkcudbright.
Very good morning. Well, yes, the sun is shining here, Kubrick, amongst the cloud, but thank you, SSDA, for inviting along to a quick and brief summary of how I sort of got into the mind of a cyclist. Is that I suddenly became a cyclist on the back of, I used to suffer from something called atrial fibrillation or flutter, some might be familiar with it, and taking the beta blockers and the digoxin and all sorts of blood thinning drugs. In the end, had a ablation at Jubilee in Glasgow and came off all medication, felt much better, lost about 1.5 stone, and thought, oh, this is unbelievable how I feel, and started cycling. Thanks to Esther and Warren for Galloway Cycling Holidays, who helped me sort of go from not to cyclist that's, I'm out three or four a week now, and to give something back to the British Foundation who pioneered the ablation, which I have. 4 of us cycled from Kirkcudbright to John O'Groats about 10 years ago. So I got into the psyche of what a cyclist looks for, and what they're really wanting when they go to hotels or bed and breakfast or guest houses, and have tried to implement that in our business. And by means a marketing guru, but it's good to share best practice with each other. I think, in a way we seem to have hit on and get good feedback from the facilities we offer. So this is our landing page of the website. Obviously, you all have your own websites. The key for us is to make it as easy as possible for somebody to navigate their way around here. Hence the reason why we have the top bar, book direct. People often to come direct, the best prices. But along the top, there's home, new dining, tariff offers, book a room, activity breaks, and vouchers. So if we go to the slide and we drop in activity breaks, it sort of drops in the sort of 6 key activity breaks that we do at the hotel, from art, music breaks, golfing, cycling, which will come to a minute, stargazing, shooting, foraging, bird watching, and we've just got Hogmanay in there because it I know it's a little early to be planning for Hogmanay. It is a good time. So in the middle there is cycling breaks. If we go to the next slide, so one click through to the cycling break, will come our page about cycling, and I think the key here is to cover as many bases as you can, because we do have so many options for cyclists. So there's so many variety. You can be a road cyclist, you can be a gravel cyclist, you can be a mountain biker. So what we need to do is to appeal to those sectors, cyclists, and of course now there's far more people bringing in bikes with them. So what we've done on our landing page here is effectively say what we are, that we have the routes and adventures of coastal rides, rolling hills, dramatic upland glens. The fact that we partner with Esther and Warren at Galloway Cycling Holidays as well is crucial. I'm a huge believer in collaboration, and that's something you all need to do. Certainly the launch of the Kirkpatrick Coast, be working with each other for as much as we can. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see a very untidy or tidish bike store. So there's a little bit of work to do in this outhouse, but this is taken last year when we had about 16 cyclists staying with us. And to the left, you can't quite see the rack for 8 bikes to hang. The key to the bring the bikes away, as Vanessa spoke earlier, the fact that these cyclists have a variety of needs. One, they'll need to often do a little bit of maintenance on their bike. B, they'll to charge them if they're electric bikes, so plenty of plug sockets, plenty of extension leads. C, they want to put them safely, so we've got a lockable store. Everybody who comes as code to get into the store changes on a regular basis, so we give them a code. We're lucky that we have a night porter at the hotel, so there's constant going around. Although it's just a little outhouse, it's monitored all the time for security reasons, but it's a pretty big padlock that's on the door for anybody who'd got in there. It is alarmed as well. So the not down to CCTV yet in it, but it is alarmed. So the cyclists can sleep well at night, assured their bikes are unlocked with the uppers. When I did the Koubrey to John Groats, and I've done a couple of other cycles. I cycled from Cambridge to Whitby 1 year. What I find is that a lot of hotels and properties, when you ring them and say, listen, can you store our bike overnight? They'll say yes. They don't really know what they're saying to. So my bike's been put in my store of a kitchen before today. It's been in a shed with all the furniture. It's been put in a laundry with all the sheets and laundry, etc. And it's not really what I wanted for the bike. As they say, they're expensive pieces of kit, expensive toys for us all to have. So when a property says they can put the bike up, you really need to think hard. Can you deliver that product? Can you deliver it in a safe environment? Can you deliver a clean environment? Deliver it where it's sat back of a kitchen next to the dry stores, or in the laundry room, or in a shed outside with all the garden furniture, that when it rains the water comes through the roof. So this is pretty important, and the basis of make sure that we all offer something that exceeds the expectation of the customer that's coming. If you go to the slide, then one more, Ag. That's okay. We can slip past that. That was the landing pages. So what I found over the years, that a lot of people like to do their own thing. So it's great having the likes of trail breaks, and I've used them when I cycled the Coast and Castles route with Pete and Christine Corson from Trail Breaks here in Koubrey. They put on a great package for my wife and I last year. Cycled from where did we start now? Mental block. It'll come back to me. We finished in Edinburgh, where we started. Anyway, lovely trip up the East Coast. Oh, which is in Tynemouth. That's right, Tynemouth, and finished up in Edinburgh. And that was all organised. All the hotels were organised, and the luggage went on with it, which was great. But a lot of people want to do their own. Certainly, if they're coming on their own, they're quite happy to find their way around it. So you need to just help them if you can in finding local routes. So I've put a link to my Strava on the website, so people can click it and see all the routes that I've done in and around the hotel. They're easily downloadable, so they can put them these days onto their GPS, Garmin's or Wahoo's, or whatever they have on their bikes. So they can download these and drop them to their gadgets and follow them around. The other option, as Vanessa was saying earlier, is to get some local routes and maybe even print them out at your establishment, or at the cafe, or wherever you are, bed and breakfast, guest house, hotel, so that when a site comes, you've got routes there for them, for where they're going or where they should. And it's surprising how many people will arrive over the bike and they'll be asking, where do you recommend? Where's a quiet back road, and what's the best thing to see, and where's it to climb? So you can try and familiarize yourself and put yourself in the mind of a cyclist of what they really want to do and what they want to see. You'll start to be able to build your business around their specific needs. Not the next slide is, Vanessa will go to. Oh yeah, so it's collaboration. This is my final slide. So here's Esther on the left hand side, cycling past the hotel. It's great to work with the likes of Gallup Cycling Holidays, because they'll bring guests to us, and likewise, we'll bring guests to them. If people are staying here and they want to have an accompanied ride, then we can get it with Esther and Warren and say, we've got some people staying at the hotel that actually like ride out with somebody that nerves, don't know the route, don't know the ways, first time out on electric, or first time out cycling on gravel. Will take them out for the day, and they do so. We've sort of feed them in the middle. And then the right hand side, this is a younger looking me 10 years ago when I did that trip to John O'Groats. I'm totally grey now, my God. We did this in collaboration with Cromba. And this is one of the things that I have realised, again, is quite high on the cycling agenda. They're not, although there might be, some might be big drinkers when they come to your establishment, but a lot of them are, here to experience some pretty long rides, 50, 60, 70 miles each day. And we jumped up for this ride, and I did to John's with Krombacher, and they've actually sponsored our cycle because we're doing it for Bart Foundation, and then we've stocked their non-alcoholic beer, which is great. And if they're going out for a packed lunch, we just slip a couple of bottles of Krombacher in for them as well, and they can sit at the side of the road thinking they have a nice beer whilst it's completely zero alcohol free. So that's really from me. Just try and put yourself in the mind of the cyclist, and if you're a cyclist, then consider it, because it really is refreshing and a good way to clear your mind, get out, leave the phone on the desk or at home, and just go out and have a little bit of time to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Great to hear from you, a keen cyclist yourself. Please do pop any questions for Chris in the chat box, and we'll handle those at the end of the session. I'd now like to introduce Patrick O'Shaughnessy, Industry Development Manager at Visit Scotland, who'll be talking about the importance of bookable and different ways to distribute.
Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for having me along. And Chris, what a great presentation. You've pretty much done my work for me. I'll just reference you for the next 6 slides and my job will be done. So today I'm just going to talk very tightly about a couple of subjects. So we've done quite an extensive site within Visit Scotland Cycling Tourism Industry Guide. I'm just going to pull out some bits from that I think are relevant, just make life a little bit easier for you. And then I want to sort of drill into some just some key things that might help you convert what is obviously a very exciting time ahead around cycling for the summer and beyond. So this is very much what Chris was all about. So I very much see the Cycling Tourism Guide as, how can you put yourself in the shoes of a cyclist? And that's, for some that might say, well, I don't cycle, don't understand. Actually, it's pretty much common sense. It's doing these things, and if you do struggle, then talk to other people such as Chris, or cycle friendly cafes, or even repair shops, and they'll quickly get you in mind in terms of what it is that a visitor would really appreciate. And I think it's that bit of differentiation that makes a huge difference as to whether people will choose your activity or your accommodation to stay with, whether they get a sense of that actually you do care. But the Cycling Tourism Guide is definitely a help there as well. So these slides have been shared afterwards, and you'll be able to click through to that site. The next slide, I just want to say, well, why even bother get involved in cycling for all its obvious activities? Then there's a couple of things that I would pull out. So there's definitely a pent-up demand, and I think international markets are huge with how strong the exchange rate is. For example, the American dollar to the pound. But it's very true that people have got value for money is very important to them. It's every country has a cost of living crisis when you do the conversations with them. So there's two things. They want money can't buy experiences, and that's about they are prepared to pay for a really, really strong holiday, and it's about that personalization. It's about that how authentic. How can you make people feel that they're in an area in Dumfries and Galloway in the borders that is distinctly different, with these extra touches that Chris mentioned about it. And in terms of the size of the market, I'm not going to go through all of these statistics, but the most powerful for me was the opportunities. Despite the size, actually, Scotland only has 0.5% of the total volume and just short of 1% of the total spend. So huge opportunity in terms of what can be leveraged, particularly with the fact that we've this summer we have the world's biggest cycling event happening in Scotland. We're with an expected over 2 million people visiting with this event in mind. Next slide, please, Morag. So it's always useful when you are putting yourself in the shoe of people, I think this is a great exercise to do, and I've seen people who actually create little pen profiles of who their targeted customer might be. In Visit Scotland, we look at two specific ones: adventure seekers and experience seekers. And in particular, I think the thing that's noticeable within these two sectors is, yes, these people are they're younger, they're very keen on cycling, but actually they're looking at more than just cycling. They want to do other things as well. So really opportunity to upsell and cross-sell. And one that, going back to my point, looking at if you do create those profiles, I've seen people who actually pin it up on their wall, the sort of picture of who they're wanting to talk to whenever they post something on social, whenever they write something on their website. So it's a simple, here's two profiles you could use, but maybe you spend a little bit of time to pull out your own profile in terms of the type of cyclist you want to look towards. So this is a really powerful stat that I think that tells about online bookings, and I may be teaching you how to suck eggs if you've already got a booking system. But it's fair to say that I quite often come across providers, and particularly within the experienced provider section, as opposed to accommodation. Accommodation probably are 10 years ahead in terms of how digitally transactable they are. But the fact that 82% of all travel bookings took place with no human interaction. So you really need to make sure that you are providing people with the functionality that they want. The really great analogy I like to use is that not having a booking system is like inviting a load of people to your party and then locking the room, locking the door, and they can't get in. They can't get in and access that party easily. So this is how I describe this sort of in a simple, and I always use this to sort of outline how a visitor might book with you. And I think direct, we know, is absolutely best, and this is some huge opportunities for you as businesses to get people to book directly with you, with all of the activity that the SSDA is doing and actually what Visit Scotland is doing at national level. And your website or your social media plays a big part of it. And obviously the opportunity to convert and be bookable is so important. And then there's what I would call is the indirect element, which is using intermediaries such as wholesalers and travel operators and online travel agents. So I'll touch on the bookable piece, and I'll talk a little bit more about online travel agents. So there is no reason for anyone not to have a booker. But what I was about to say is that there's loads of booking systems. If you do have a current booking system, do that walkthrough just to check that it's very easy to make a booking. I literally was yesterday looking to book for something for my wife and I knew where I wanted to go. I went on to various websites, and the experience sometimes was just awful to make to book. And literally, going back to that statistic of 82% is do it without touching a human. If you can't book simply and easy, if you can't book online, you just move to another business. That's what a huge amount of people will now do, rather than go around sending an email, checking to see if there's availability. People don't have the time. So do make it really easy. If you have a booking system as well that you're not happy with, it's now much easier to move. And also for experiences, a lot of experiences think in terms of actually a booking system is not required, or it's too complex, my product. Now that there are so many solutions out there in terms of being able to make things bookable, there really is no reason not to do it. And they do break things down in terms of, if you need a waiver, if you've got an adventure business, or if you've got several different things you need, like helmet sizes, bike frame sizes, there are systems out there that do that quickly and easily. And we've done a really good interactive page that allows you to go through the functionality of the various systems, whether you're accommodation or whether you're an experienced business. So clicking forward, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things as well within the sort of that booking, the functionality of a booking system. If you've got a booking system, check if you've got channel management in terms of that, being able to push things out. Give live availability to online travel agents. It really sort of makes sure that your booking system is the single source of information, and it cuts out that opportunity to double book. But channel management has a cost. It's probably 1 or 2%, but something that, go back to your system if you really want to look at online travel agent as a channel to market. And I think I just wanted to have that chat with you. Next slide, please, Morag. Around online travel agents, I think it's fair to say most if you ask any business, most businesses will say, don't use online travel agents. I really hate them. They charge me commission. But they do have their place, and actually they've got a huge loyalty with large segments of the visitor market. And it is fair to say as well that I think most accommodation providers either use them or use part of them. When I say part of them to deliver some of their bookings, but there is now an opportunity for experiences to use online travel agents. The top three: Viator, Get Your Guide, and Tickets. Tickets are mainly attractions. But you also might want to drill down into more niche, such as Much Better Adventures does cycling, and Love to Visit is well optimized for cycling. So if you wanted to look at a market that you haven't done before, then you might want to look at this. So next slide, please. I just want to sort of say, just give you a little bit of logic as to why you might use online travel agent. I would couch that before with anything. Direct bookings are absolutely the best. So but online travel agent as a mix of the market might make sense, particularly in this situation where maybe you've never looked at the cycling market before. So this would be an easy way to tap into it. Maybe you're a one-man band, or you don't have staff who are pretty stretched doing what they should be doing, i.e. looking after the customers. Then an online travel agent might make sense to use. The one thing about an online travel agent is that most businesses which don't have the time, skills, or money to spend doing direct marketing, which is quite complex, then the online travel agents are experts in this, and they will only charge you their commission rate when you actually get a converted booking. So that's a lot of advantage. So if you're new, it allows you to get that new business with the commissionable element, but ultimately you're not paying as a marketing skills or resource to spend their time and energy on direct. So that's one to consider. But however, I would go back to the direct piece. If you do use an online travel agent, two things I would absolutely ask you to do. Make sure that you grab the customer, the visitor's email address at some point in time in their visit, and that you own that conversation thereafter to tell them about you and hopefully bring them back directly to your website to book in future. So you've acquired a new visitor, and then you make sure you own it. And the second thing after that, which helps that ownership of the engagement, is make sure you're the first to get the review request in. The online travel agent will absolutely be asking, but if you ask them, you have the relationship, you're the place where they've had a great time, you're much more likely to get the review from them. And that really helps you engage with that visitor going forward and makes the value of paying up to 15%, or in some cases we've experienced up to 30% for a commission, makes the value of that, doing that, much more economical with the sort of lifetime expectancy of a customer coming back. And the last point I'll make, if you move the slides forward more, is that also is looking at, within your booking system, check if they've got a relationship with Google, if they're a partner. So for a hotel, if your booking system has got a relationship, then you've got this opportunity to have a free listing where people can click through directly from your Google business profile to your business website. So that's something to do. Firstly, make sure that you've got your Google profile as up to date as possible and is verified. So for hotels, and then just recently, Google has introduced Things to Do, which is exactly the same thing, but for experiences. And there's an opportunity for you to appear on Google in the search on the front page with your website showing directly through. And the reason I've used a San Diego listing is that it's only in the last 4 weeks that Google has introduced this to Scotland. So an opportunity for you to take advantage of that. So I think that's for me. If we go to the next slide, yeah, I think we're on to opportunity to have a conversation.
Thank you very much, Patrick. That's wonderful. And thank you very much for all that information, the insight and the stat, the 82%. We'll now head back over to our questions, please, Morag.
first one, I think it's directed at Vanessa, is will there be an SSDA cycle-friendly logo we can use?
Oh, that's a really good question. We haven't got plans for a cycle-friendly SSDA logo, but I will be happy to look into that and see if we might be able to make something possible, even something to put onto business listings. Leave that with me.
Next question is, how can businesses be included in the cycle-friendly business map as part of the Kirkpatrick Macmillan route?
Yes, really good question. Thanks so much for that. So for the Kirkpatrick C2C, we are actually planning to have a very similar page structure as we currently have for the Southwest Coastal 300 on the Scotland Starts Here website. Some of you might have had a chance to have a look at that in the past as well. So that means that on the landing page for the Kirkpatrick C2C, there's going to be sub pages, and each of those pages is going to have map outlines of the route with overlays of the businesses on the route. So if you we're going to go through our database of all the business that we already have on Scotland Starts Here to make sure that all of the businesses along the route are included in that. And then we're also looking at adding an additional tag for the Kirkpatrick C2C, similar to what we have for the Southwest Coastal 300, for businesses to also tag themselves to make sure that they will definitely appear.
Yeah, that sort of answers the second question, which was, can my business be included in a cycle-friendly database? So the next question came in from Andy. It was Summer of Cycling slide, which refers to Vanessa's slides. Can you please explain further what is meant by cycling itineraries?
Absolutely, happy to explain that further, Andy. So if you go to scotlandstartshere.com, you will find in the section Plan Your Visit, we have an inspiration section with suggested itineraries for trips to the south of Scotland. So at the moment, we've got quite a few itineraries, for example, for the Southwest Coastal 300 for different interest groups. We also have a brand new itinerary on the trail of the Wicker Man movie to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the movie being released. And we also have quite a few other itineraries on in the footsteps of Robert Burns, and also following some of the historic events and stories that the Great Tapestry of Scotland tells. So those are just some of the itineraries that we've got at the moment, but most of those at the moment are focused on driving. So they've got a variety of stops. They're usually between 3 and 7 days in length, and have for each day a number of suggested stops, visits, with mentions of overnights in various towns, etc. So we would be quite keen to build that section and actually have some itineraries for cycling as well, to make sure that we've got a wider variety available for this target audience. So do have a look at that section. If you've got ideas for other itineraries that we should be featuring in the future, please feel free to reach out and let us know.
Okay, we have another question that came in, which is directed to Chris. We'd like to discuss a point that Chris, re-collaboration, something that we'd like to get involved with. We tend to be 4-night plus stay, but how do we co-collaborate with shorter stay accommodation in the hope that people get experience of the area and come back to stay longer at another time who might choose us?
Okay, thank you for, sorry, my camera for some reason has gone a bit dicky, but anyway, I'm still here. I mean, we do in the summer tend to do a minimum of 2-night stays, certainly over a weekend. And is it a difficult one? Because a lot of touring cyclists just want to stay one night. But I think the opportunity we have here in Dumfries and Galloway is to get them to follow some of the local itineraries. I mean, the Scotland's Here app has a lot of lovely smalls on it that people can also get and download within its sort of geotags, so from wherever they are. it'll give them some rich ideas. I think as far as collaboration goes, I think if you're an accommodation provider and you've got somebody that wants to come over to Kirkcudbright for a couple of nights, let's talk and create a map. I think in the itineraries going forward for the SSDA and Vanessa in particular, building these itineraries that's going to be crucial to people within the south of Scotland. So the coast to coast Kirkcudbright routes are an ideal opportunity for people to take a bit of time on it. And one of the things is e-bikes. The introduction of far more people having e-bikes now. They know they've only got 40 to 60 miles on their battery really, so they're going to be planning a route that works across Port Patrick to Mouth in that sort of range of batteries. So I think in time we'll build this collaboration. We'll build a link with each of our business, and we can send somebody on from here. For example, we work with Mel at Thornhill. A lot of people get to Kirkcudbright, and then their second day of a cycle will take them to Thornhill, and that's just a nice sort of 48-50 mile cycle in there. So I think if there is anybody out there who wants to part of this and comes to me or Vanessa, we can build that route in time and link to the suggested itinerary.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. If not, we can deal with this just afterwards. Last question that's come in is not sure who can reply to this or whether we have the up-to-date information. But Sue is saying that apparently Google is in the process of removing the short-term Let's business listings as they're going to introduce their own version of BDC. Does anyone know anything about this?
I'll pick that up, Morag. It's just
Thank you, Patrick.
I think just two things. I'm not aware of this, but although you might prove me wrong, Sue, and we have regular conversations with Google. In fact, I've responded to them this morning about another point. So Google are very clear that they will not insert themselves in a marketplace in any way. So the likes of hotels, they're not looking to sell directly. They're not ever going to be an intermediary. They basically are looking to provide information to their searchers as best and as quickly as possible. So I'd be very surprised if they inserted themselves in the market. They do always have had a real quandary with self-catering because when you actually do a business profile, in the drop down, they do say that that vacation rentals is not an area that they provide, primarily because they can't differentiate between a short-term let and a long-term let. However, with a bit of innovation, which we obviously know that everyone has got around, there is a way of doing is using your business profile. I won't give you the process, but ultimately what I'm saying is I'd be very surprised if Google were removing the listings. It's just not what they do as an organization. It's fair to say TripAdvisor do, because they've set up holiday letting so that you can you have to pay a commission to them to actually maximize or optimize for self-catering lettings, but very surprised if Google was doing it.
Okay, that's the last question that came into the chat. Linny, over to you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to ask any further questions? We have 5 minutes left in the session. If you'd like to raise your hand if there are any further. Nobody at the moment. I wondered if I could please ask a question to you, Chris.
Fire away.
Yes, obviously a keen cyclist yourself with a fantastic offer for cyclists that you're building. I'd be really keen to ask how many of the cyclists are return customers and what are their comments on cycling in the south of Scotland, please?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because I have a couple here this morning that arrived for 3 nights, and this is their 5th visit to the regions. They come every year nearly. They both got e-bikes, and they're both heading off on sort of trails that they've got to know. They feel very comfortable cycling here because we are relatively traffic free. So you get on some of our back road, and I can cycle some days and not see a car and do 20-30 miles. they feel the same. They feel very, very safe up here. They feel the hedgerows and walls are low enough. If you go to the Lake District, it's very tight against the dry stone walls. If you go down to Yorkshire, the hedgerows are quite high, so they get a better view. They get a better vista area in the cycling around here. Those that come for the first time, never to fall in love with it. And if we keep delivering what we're doing now and keep the momentum that we've got for cycling, it's going to build. Because what's nice is sometimes some of our cyclists will come back and say, we bumped into a couple that were staying at such and such, and we're chatting with them, and they're cycling here, there, and it becomes a little bit of a network. And then they'll go home and say, fantastic time cycling in Dumfries and Gallop. And I think the key for me are, for the fact it's quiet roads. People feel safe on our roads. I don't ever encourage anyone to go herring along 75. So you don't really need to go on the road. There's plenty of other beautiful side tracks hidden away behind all our lovely towns and villages that they can get onto. So it's growing. More and more people are returning each year. The cyclists that just come forward are coming for a challenge, and the coast to coast will let quite a few for the very first time, but they'll tick off. It's a bit like bagging Monroes, isn't it? They'll have that challenge and off they go. The ones that return quite a lot, interestingly enough, are the semi-retired and retired market, average age sort of 50 plus. They're the ones that are coming on a regular basis.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chris. A really exciting time ahead, and I think the opportunity for collaboration among businesses as we grow the cycling offer is absolutely key. And we'd like to remind you all that, as Vanessa has said, here at SSDA, we are super keen for your input and look forward to the exciting summer of cycling ahead. I'd like to thank our guest speakers, Vanessa, Chris and Patrick, and thank you all for attending, and we look forward to catching up with you all soon regarding cycling. Thank you very much.